We live.
What's going on, Chop Nation? What's good? It's your girl Toya G. Happy to be back with y'all. Hopefully, since the last time we chatted, you were able to enjoy your Father's Day. You were able to enjoy your Juneteenth. You were able to get this last week rolling and going and moving in the right direction. And now we are smack dab in the start of a whole new week. We coming to you on a Monday. We know we ain't really moving like this, but we know the summertime is a little more flexible for me and the plug. And we're
Gotta
happy
be.
to decided to tap into us and with us a little bit for the day. Plug, how you living? What's the word?
I'm fantastic here on this Monday. Interesting dialogue to have. I did do some adult shit over the weekend. You feel
We
me?
love
I
that.
had a we had me and the missus hosted a friend, like our other married friends, and we had dinner. So you know what I'm saying. That's what kind of got in the way for those who joined yesterday. It was some things like those types of things, scheduling issues, kind of got in the way of us finishing up yesterday. So we here today. We here today because
Yeah,
I feel like we like this is gonna be us like closing a chapter, hopefully, on this submarine nonsense and foolishness. But go ahead.
absolutely. Gotta say what's up to Damo. I'm sorry, gotta say no, what's up to Damo, but also what's up to Gary, what's up to Danielle in the chat. Everybody else, if y'all are chilling, tapping in, tuning in with us, go ahead and let us know what's good with you. Say what's up, let us know where you from. All of those great things so we can get this conversation going. Meanwhile, I'm gonna go ahead and get the ball rolling by opening up Hood Therapy in the building. About what everybody was captivated with one way or another over the last week, which is this darn submarine, right?
Right.
I believe the submarine went out last Sunday. I think it left out on Father's Day.
Mm-hmm.
And about an hour and 45 minutes into the Titan's excursion, that's the name of the submarine that went down or was going to travel down into the ocean to see the Titanic, which is right outside of New York, so in the northeast region of the country. And Ocean Gate, the company that sponsored those particular activities, went uh, to do that excursion. Hour 45 minutes, lost connection to people. Next thing we knew, we started to hit the panic button, and the entire world, and we know the United States at the very least, was captivated by the story of this submarine.
Right.
Now, as much as we've heard all the stories, and if you know the 24 news hour news cycle, it was all over everything all day long. My timelines, pick a platform, my timelines were submerged, no pun intended, with the conversation or what conversations all about. Um,
Immersed.
yes, immersed in
Yeah.
all these different
Again, nope.
conversations.
Not pun intended that time. That
That part,
immersed
yeah.
pun that was intended.
Well,
Go ahead.
here's the thing: pun intended, pun not intended is very funny because the internet don't take nothing seriously, particularly Black Twitter, right? And so those folks had a field day with various conversations, posting different memes about how they would be when they came out, or if they came out the submarine, what some final last words, or just a bunch of different things. And so I guess you know Plug, how do you feel about the internet making fun of this particular issue and kind of the tendency for the internet nowadays to lean into this dark
To,
humor that we've
yeah,
started to
yeah.
really privilege and shake things up when it comes to serious matters like this?
Yeah, because TikTok got dark. I ain't even gonna lie.
It,
But I
yeah,
do think I do think though that when you look at the circumstances of what happened to these people, to these billionaires, to these just extremely rich individuals, you feel me? It's a lot of circumstances that really was. I mean, it kind of laid the groundwork. It was ripe for
Yeah.
the type of humor that was produced. I think it was a few different factoids that kind of stood out that really kind of made it made it easy for a lot of humor. One that kind of stood out to me was the off-brand PlayStation controller
Yeah.
that they was using to
Shout out to
to navigate
Logitech.
the whole thing.
Shout out to Logitech. You know,
Man, not and off-brand. I'm talking about this is a computer PlayStation controller. You know what I
yeah.
mean? The one that you still got to plug into the game, even though all games come cordless these days. So like they really, I mean, and what baffles me with that is like, bro, all this money is 250 a ticket,
Yeah.
250,000 a ticket, and y'all you couldn't even get the real PlayStation controller joint. Like you
I mean, but
you playing with the Logitech?
the whole and is his name Steven? I believe his name is Stephen Rush, who is the CEO of
Ocean Gate.
Ocean Gate.
Yeah.
But he had, was very muchly a minimalist. He used carbon fibers, and I think there was another material that he was told not to
Stockton
use.
Rush. Stockton Rush.
Stockton Rush, right, right. He
I
was
think
big on
steel and carbon fiber. It was steel and
steel and
carbon
carbon
fiber.
fiber, which
Yeah.
was completely told that was just not a thing, was a non-starter, I believe was the phrase in that particular industry. And he scoffed at that and said, no big deal. We saw so many different pictures of the submarine. Number one, we know the size of it was about the size of a minivan. And so fitting 5 people on that was already interesting in and of itself, because you had, I think it showed pictures we saw all over the news where some of the chairs was facing each other, but then one of the seats was like had its back to everybody else and where people to sit on that thing comfortably. So that was wild. We also saw the inside of James Cameron, who we know is the director of Titanic. He had gone on a couple different excursions, a couple different folks on different similar missions, and the layout, all the different screens and the doodads and the widgets and the lights here and the buttons here. Comparatively, there was a couple screens on that mug, and that was it. Right, there weren't even any windows to look out to see the
Right.
Titanic. It was being fed through a camera onto a
I
screen
think it
to
had
the people inside of it.
one port
It
window
had
on the front.
no windows.
That thing on the front ain't a window.
I don't know. Maybe I
Yeah,
could
yeah,
be wrong. I don't. But from what I understood, there was no way for them to see out, because it was also, of course, we know bolted or
yeah.
had what 18 bolts in it.
From the outside.
17 of them on the outside, from the outside. Right. So interesting. And I'm no oceanographer, right? I'm no uh historian. I'm no deep sea diver. I
None
just,
of
a
that.
lot of this stuff was, glaring at me. We seen, what was it, the balloon boy, the boy who got took away in a hot water, in a hot air balloon. Like, so you
Yeah.
hope these like really tentative, random, odd moments that happen in history end up being resolved favorably. But what we saw was that was not the case. And so, like you said, it gave a lot of fodder to people, coming out swinging, making some good jokes. I know you got an assortment of some things
Oh yes.
ready,
Oh
but I also
yes.
want to say amongst that was just some real talk and some hard conversations that were being had. So before we get to the real hard talk and the hard conversations that we had about the details of this issue, uh, how would you come out the submarine if you got saved? And they
Look
said,
now look. But as we get into these, you feel me?
yeah,
It like, again, we gonna talk about whether or not it was okay for the internet to do this, and or whether, you know what I'm saying, whether or not folks was tripping and any of those things, right? But we just want to show some of the humor, you know what I mean, that come out of these type of situations, and it's really difficult to, it's really difficult to kind of to attempt to, what's it called, censor these types of
yeah,
things. And I feel like as the internet becomes more a part of how we, I mean, not even, I mean, as we understand it as the thing that now is our main source of media, where we get all our media from, whether it's news, everything else. Yeah, I mean, these types of, jokes and this type of humor is just a kind of a part of the game. So the first one that we're gonna start with is Pick Me Perry. Rob is random on Twitter. How would you come out of the submarine if you got saved? Me
he
when I
said like Bobby Schmurder.
me when they pull up me when they pull me out with only 10 minutes of oxygen left in the clutch. Check me out. Fresh.
I mean, you got a whole thread of them. Did you have any other the rest of
Yeah,
them?
no, I got more. Yeah, I got more.
Run
We
'em.
going one by one. We going one by one. Yeah. So looking fresh like Bobby Schmurder. right? Then, what would your last words be if you were on the submarine? What would your last words be if you was on the submarine? Let's see.
Look at us. Hey, look at us. Look at us. Huh? Who would have thought? Not me.
Look at us. Who'd have thought?
Who would have thought?
Who would have thought, right? Then you got hold on. This is actually one of my favorites. Let me get it right. Let me get it right. Let me get it right. This is one of my favorites right here.
I don't know. I just don't think any other billionaires have the balls to go down that deep in the ocean.
Meanwhile,
Like, it really takes
y'all
someone with
talking.
know-how, a real leader. The deepest depths of our ocean are actually more of a mystery to humanity than space. Going to space would be like nothing compared to this. What we really need is a true visionary to be strong enough to reach the deepest parts of the ocean. A self-made man who built his life from the ground up.
From the ground up.
I don't know. I don't think there are any billionaires brave enough, smart enough, and man enough to do it.
Man enough to do it. Is there anybody that's actually man enough to go deep down in there? It's a challenge. It's a challenge.
Yeah.
Close some of these out up here.
Yeah, I got a ton of them on my screen, so I can't really notice.
Yeah, I'm trying to get yours figured out. Then we got this one here.
They've done studies, 60% of the time it works every time.
60% of the time, it works every time. You know what I mean? This is the vibe. This is the way that they were thinking about. This is the way that they were thinking about these types of things. And oddly enough, a lot of people got angry about that energy. Oddly enough, a lot of people was, really trying to come out and actually create some type of dynamic where it's like, is this okay? Right? Should we actually be doing this? And I want to give y'all a quick taste of one part of how these people was responding, and then I want y'all to see how kind of everybody else responded, and then Toya, on your end, on the other end, I want to know if it's a legitimate concern, right? Should we be thinking about how that is just life, that is just life. So this was one of the sentiments that it came out about people, how people were reacting to this type of energy.
A rich person's life isn't valued less. A poor person's life isn't valued less.
Yeah, miss me with your All Lives Matter energy, all right? Because every single day there are migrants across the globe that are forced to flee their homes because of the economic, social, and political turmoil that is often driven by imperial powers like the United States of America, because it benefits the billionaires within their society. And what happens when things go wrong for those migrants on their path towards a better life? Do they get massive news coverage across the globe? Do they get a massive fucking multinational effort to send resources to support them and aid them and help them? Rarely. But a couple of billionaires make a decision to spend $250K a pop to go to the depths of the fucking ocean in a tin can that is painted in the massive red flag. And when it shockingly goes wrong, it's a massive breaking news story across the world. And we have a multinational effort to send resources their way to support them and try to save them. The idea you put forward in that video is disgusting.
So the energy that's people are coming with is that it's this idea that on one hand it's these billionaires and people are making jokes. People are thinking like, oh, is that right? Is that okay? Is that ethical? And then people are responding like, yes, motherfucker, because how is it all of a sudden that we need to be worried about making sure whose lives we paying attention to and those types of things? So Toya, do you think it is a legitimate debate about the internet's response and it being an unethical thing or an immoral thing for people to joke about the lives of these people, even though they are rich billionaires? They're still people.
I think, in a lot of ways, the internet has become a place where people go and cope with life through humor. And because we get to hide behind our screens and because we get to hide behind our screen names, we really don't have as much care about how people feel about us getting that joke off, right? And so I think for whatever reason, generationally and socially, we've moved to because it's rough out here, it's bad out here. And so if we had doom and gloom, 24-hour doom and gloom on our feeds like we did, for example, when first popped off, I don't think it would be a fun place to be. So to make it a place that, is at least interesting to engage in, I think it is a competition to one up each other with the most darkest, most interesting, most captivating takes that can be made. A huge criticism, that is on Twitter in particular is that every take ain't a good take. And just because you can create a good point or have a good, one up or comeback, that you shouldn't do that. But other people say, listen, the stakes are low. I don't really have a lot to gain or lose, especially if I protect my identity. So I should be able to get these jokes off. So I don't know. I think it's just what we do. I think both what we do socially in terms of dark humor, we've really moved into that place, in that space. The fact that it has a name, right? Dark humor, we take things that shouldn't be joked about, that typically wouldn't be laughed about. You sent me something earlier that was like a diss, like it was a TikTok about a diss track, right?
Yeah.
And these are all just animated little characters. We got a rapper who put a diss out, and then I guess the person he was dissing responded. So dude, like, yeah, man, he responded to you. You should listen. And in the spirit of the craft of hip hop and lyricism, for example, dude was like excited to listen to the diss track that the person he dissed came up with to come back to him. And this is ironically happening while Pusha T and Jim Jones are having their little feud, going back and forth rapping against each other. But it was hilarious because the diss track was like, you ain't got no dad. You want to be, you got no daddy. Whatever you want to talk about this, but you ain't got no daddy. Yeah. You want to hang, but you can't hang with your daddy. Yeah, you want to cut up, but your daddy wasn't there to cut your birthday cake. Like, it was rude. It was relentless. And I think that is just a lot of topics are not off the table now. People are really, really. It's about what you can say to get the most likes, right? The whole idea, if anybody's on Twitter, somebody will say something. And then if it's ass, or if people don't agree with it, or if they just want to show you that you didn't say shit, they'll put the word ratio. No, well, not even that. Not even that. They will simply put the word ratio in a tweet under your tweet. And what that basically means is, I'm about to get more likes on your ass than that comment had because that shit was ass, right? And so either people talk
I'm gonna get more likes. We're talking shit about your shit, then you about to get
and so there's so many different ways that people go at each other that creates a lot of banter and back and forth. Either I'm gonna flame your ass, or I'm gonna let people come in and help flame your ass by doing something as simple as just saying what you said wasn't shit, it wasn't what you thought it was, and I'm about to embarrass you by getting more likes on a comment that don't mean nothing than what you actually said. So it's ugly. You know what I'm saying? These conversations get out of control. But I'll end it by saying this. Laugh to keep from crying is, a way of Black people. It is a healing mechanism, a coping mechanism. It's a healing mechanism. It's a diversionary strategy so that we don't get lost, as Lee would say, in the sauce of our current situations. And so I think that's really what Black people have done, and how dark humor in and of itself has expanded, is as a tool and a mechanism to say, shit, if we don't joke about this shit, man, we would be taken out the game. Emotionally and psychologically, we wouldn't even be here.
Yeah, I mean, the way I look at it is, it's people like Billionaires are fair game, because like, as you say, with Black folk, we make fun of our own circumstances. Like, a key aspect of Black comedy is how fucked up it is to be Black. You know what I mean? The whole, white people do shit like this, Black people do shit like this. You know what I'm saying? Like talking about the circumstances that niggas come through. So if we can make the jokes and have the conversation that we having, you know what I mean, about ourselves, what in God's green earth make you think that y'all are outside of the realm of what can be, like, nigga, I'm talking about coming up, bro, like mama jokes, talking about your family. You better not have a disability. You better not be cool. It's a lot of things that shit, like there was nothing that was, you know what I mean, few things that was sacred. Few things, but it's just depending on the smoke that you had with the individual, how far you was willing to go. You know what I'm saying? It was another viral TikTok from a long time ago that was just like, you know what I'm saying, that's why you ugly or whatever, and the girl was like, that's why your mama dead, shit like that. You know what I mean? So if we willing to, you know what I mean, if we willing to look at our own circumstances and be like, all right, nigga, like that shit. And, you know what I mean, we gonna make fun of that. We gonna make jokes about that. We gonna make jokes about you being poor and all this other shit. We definitely gonna make jokes about you being rich.
Yeah.
The fuck? And that's why I like when dude was like, miss me with that all lives matter bullshit, because the experiences is not the same. Like like there's nobody that check any of them conservative dickheads when on Fox News when they doing they same anti poverty spiel, talking shit about poor people. Poor people are the most shitted on people in the world. You feel me? Like, especially that little 1%. And now on the way TikTok operating shit now, niggas love to sit back and tell you, if you're not getting money, it's because you aren't working. Your mind is not set on no, fuck that. Right? That's why I was like, that's why another tweet that I saw that was funny that was like, man, you better tell them billionaires to pull themselves up by their bootstraps.
You know what I'm saying?
You know what I mean? Like so in my mind, it's like not only are billionaires right for being made fun of regardless, you feel me? I also think that when it's billionaires specifically doing dumb shit, like if somebody got cancer and passed away, or a tragic car accident, you know what I'm saying? Like those things is you got people that still like, hey, one less billionaire in the world. It is what it is. But the jokes, the humor stems directly from the caucasity.
Yeah.
And for those who thought I mispronounced it, no, caucasity of Stockton Rush, and I mean, and the people who even chose to get on, because like you was pointing out, how many times was death mentioned in the waiver before they even stepped on that mug?
Allegedly 3 times on the first page.
On the first page. On the first page. Like, so what type?
A lot of people from who wanted to be a part of it from actually following through with it. I think even Mr. Beast, who a lot of people have popularized through social media, has a huge YouTube following, gives away money, has a restaurant, does all types of interesting things because he can afford to. I apparently got the invitation and passed on it because he was just like, oh, that sounds crazy.
It sounds crazy as hell. So like that's kind of the world that we live in, man. Like you made that bed, like literally you locked yourself in that.
A lot of people, because in a lot of the conversations I was seeing I was looking at it on, I think I just saw a Facebook post before we started the show. I saw it on Instagram, I saw it on Twitter. As a lot of people just ethically, you don't have to be as bad as those people or as more, but I mean, I think we shift the goalpost, right, on ethicality and what's allowed and what's not. You know what I'm saying? Like a lot of these names, billionaire, you know what I'm saying? This is very much, right? A logical fallacy, and which one is it? It's a false equivalence, because I mean, number one, they live their lives like, look, we'll go back to the show we had about Rihanna and about Jay-Z. I think when Rihanna hit her billionaire status, and we were talking about whether that should be celebrated or criticized, how we should understand Black billionaires, how they should be spending their money, whatever. It was a great conversation. Probably about 6 months ago now. Y'all should check it out. Look deep into the coffers and you'll find that conversation. But one of the things we landed on is the clear understanding that there's not an ethical way to make $1 billion. Not in the global capitalist system that we have. There's just literally not a legal way that you can go about doing that. It's not. It's only 24 hours. Care about how many hustles you got, about how many things you do. It will come at the expense of things like the people who do the labor for you, the types of practices that you use, or the types of materials you use to produce what you produce. It'll come at the expense of shit like your footprint on the climate. Like, there are just so many different things that mean that you just can't ethically, because you can't be paying everybody a livable wage if you walk around with $1 billion.
You can't.
Right? Like, there are people who are not being paid appropriate wages for the work that they do. It's just not a thing. And so that being said, here's where I'm going with this. Right? We can't push the ethicality button on the average poor person for having a couple jokes when they've had to survive, and try to thrive in the very systems in the world that these people have created. Right. Why then should I have the burden of ethicality when I'm certain that if we lean in and dig a little deeper, and probably not even that deep, we can find things to be questionable and worth criticizing about the way that these people have made their money. I would also go as far as saying, let's be honest, there are some philanthropic multimillionaires and billionaires out there in this world But like you said, poor people are the worst people treated in this world. I dare to believe they probably treat the poor people around them like peons, like that they are disposable, that they are people who are not like just. It's just that comes with
Toya,
the territory. It comes with being detached from the real lives that the 98% live on a day-to-day basis. You don't care. You are callous or disconnected or just downright ignorant about how shit really is. And so again, that burden has to be on everybody evenly. I am not responsible to be the ethical and moral compass of this world. So if I have a he or see a he, I'm gonna engage in that shit, and that's just kind of how it is, for better or for worse.
I will be damned if I'm holding back a laugh on the basics of morality and ethics when ain't nobody questioning the fact that federal minimum wage is still $7-something.
Yeah,
What is there not something immoral in that? Like
because it's just
the cost of everything is went up, and we're gonna talk about inflation too.
yeah.
We're gonna talk about inflation too, but the cost of everything is went up. Like just over the course of from the time they established the minimum wage to today, we almost 3 decades into the millennium, and you're telling me that minimum wage is still the same, but you're gonna talk to me about morality and ethics because I'm making fun of a nigga driving a submarine with an off-brand PlayStation controller.
PlayStation controller
Stop
into
it.
the ocean, like and into the
Oh,
like.
Toya, let me say this real quick. The only person that deserves sympathy was
Yep.
the son who pretty much got forced to go down there with his father, even though he knew good and goddamn well that was something he shouldn't have been doing. That's the
Absolutely.
only person. Go ahead.
No, I just was gonna say there was a 19-year-old who went there for a Father's Day trip with his dad, who was like the kind of now I want to say this is really thrill seeking as much as it is a form of kind of elaborate commemoration of historical events that people just will pay no ends to look behind the curtain about. And
Mm-hmm.
so apparently, according to the young man's aunt, he was terrified, didn't want to go, was completely disinterested in it, but wanted to do something to please his dad, wanted to make sure that it was a Father's Day to remember. And so end up in the middle of the damn ocean, you know what I'm saying, squandering
At
20,
the
two hundred
bottom
fifty
of the
thousand
damn
dollars.
ocean.
You know what I'm saying? But and end up losing his life. I also want to be clear because a lot of people are like, these people earn their money. They should be able to spend it how they want to, and this type of investment and this and that, bruh. Y'all got billions of dollars and y'all throwing it into the ocean. You got $250,000. It's just the timing of it is just annoying enough. Yes, I'm going to laugh at the illogic of people taking it. Yeah, do with your money what you want to, but I'm gonna laugh at you if you, for example, take your money and go give it to a scam artist or some shit like that go cook for some shit that you should never done. I'm gonna do that. And the ocean scammed them. The ocean is unforgiving. We don't know enough about that shit.
The
You
ocean
put your
scared them.
money in the slot machine and said, "Take me down." Like, what are
Toya,
you doing? The jokes
Toya,
write
and
themselves.
what's crazy is that they talking about they should be able to do what they want to do with their money. 250,000 could change a community. It's like straight up.
Easily.
250,000, like, and that's the issue that people have. Because I think we could go ahead and transition to this next part of the conversation. Is why don't
Yeah.
people like billionaires? Why don't people fuck with billionaires? Shit like that. First of all, let's start with this idea that okay, they made that money, they should be able to do what they want with it, right? Billionaires are the worst thing for the economy, even though conservatives and other rich people and lobbyists will try to tell you otherwise. They don't spend their money in the places that actually build the economy. They spend their
Yeah.
money on shit like this. Think about that.
Crazy.
Like they say that, oh yeah, well, these highest earners, these millionaires and billionaires are the people that drive the economy. No, when you look at how they spend their money, it does not go back into our economy. They buy foreign shit. They buy custom made shit. They buy
And I
shit that
also-
does. Go ahead.
Keep going. They buy shit that
Yeah,
don't work.
they
I'm
buy
actually
shit
ignorant.
that they buy shit that doesn't put the money that they spending back into the environments and the communities and the cities that they operate in. So don't talk to yeah, they can spend their money the way they want to, but if they spending money to do dumb shit, thrill seeking, to go see a boat that's a racist boat that niggas really don't care about, no way.
Right.
So you memorializing something that we already gonna look at like, nigga,
Let me say
you're
this.
dumb. You're dumb.
Because this is all not only do they not spend money out here, but then they get tax breaks out the ass. They get 40% tax breaks They not paying nowhere near the tax rate that we paying. They get to save money because they are billionaires. And so not only do they buy their money or spend their money on whatever the fuck they want to, they're never getting taxed for it in the first place. Their money is not what's going toward building better communities, better schools, building that new stadium that they want to keep plopping everywhere. Shout out to Kansas City trying to put a losing Royals team stadium in downtown Kansas City. They'll tax the fuck out of the common citizen for that. But these billionaires and millionaires that sit in the city is not the people paying for these
tax free.
Period. You know what I'm saying? These new transit systems that's in these cities, and LA want to build a light rail from here to Vegas and from LAX to who you think is paying for that? Not the billionaires that live in this damn city.
Not the billionaires. Well, and they still pay more taxes. The billionaires here still pay more taxes than, you know what I'm saying, than anybody anywhere else. But go ahead.
A tweet from Holly, I am Harald Dorr on Twitter says this: if your kid gets cancer in the US and you're not insured, it will either not be fully treated and or hospital bills will bankrupt you. Here's the gotcha. If a billionaire builds a death trap and takes it for an underwater excursion, the government will pay for the very expensive rescue mission for free. And so that's the crazy part. You have billionaires who made a specific decision, who knew the risk, and then you involve 3 different nation states in the participation of your retrieval. The United States, Canada, as well as France were all a part of the efforts to bring that vessel out and find that vessel, which was the size of a minivan and covered the area of 2 Connecticut's, right? So how do we look at, like this tweet started off with, kids who have cancer, whose parents don't have insurance, elderly people in our populations, veterans in our population who are being subjected to homelessness and houselessness because they can't afford to participate in our society. People can't afford drugs and medication, and we'll charge them up the ass. But as soon as the VAT goes up for these billionaires, we spending money from 3 different countries, never to be reimbursed off of a dumb shit, a PlayStation, a bootleg PlayStation excursion.
Again,
that you thought was a good idea.
We want to talk about morals. We want to talk about what's ethical. The government literally had to pass legislation. One of the good parts of the Inflation Reduction Act, they don't really reduce inflation, but it has some positive parts to it. The government had to literally come in and cap insulin costs through Medicare, because insulin was being raised so like they was charging so much for insulin that people were dying because they couldn't afford it. They trying to make insulin last. That shit don't work like that.
Not at all. little injection here, we're gonna skip a day. Injection there, we'll take half of the dose here. That's not at all how this shit works.
It don't work like that at all. But y'all want us to feel bad about billionaires. Something interesting to you. Y'all know. Listen. When we take a look at this, and when we're asking this question of why people hate billionaires, when you hear people say shit like, you know, that you can't be a billionaire and be ethical, it's because you got to look at reports like this, folks. This is a report that came out during COVID that literally showed us all the people that ate off COVID. Key findings. As of November 17, 2020, the wealth of 647 U.S. billionaires has increased almost 960 billion since March. So from March 2020 to November 2020, 647 U.S. billionaires increased their wealth by damn near $1 trillion. The beginning of the pandemic, approaching 1 trillion in wealth increases. Since March, there are 33 new billionaires in the United States. Since March of the pandemic, since March of 2020, it introduced 33 new billionaires. Explain to me how you can be somebody that could create that much wealth while the world is dying. The world is dying. But let's get deeper into the report, right? Because it identified what they call the delinquent dozen. And we're not going to go over all 12 of them. We're going to go over a few of them that actually, when they say delinquent dozen, it's they making record bread, but they ain't doing nothing to protect their workers or raise wages. So getting into it, the principal owners of the 7 delinquent dozen corporations have a combined wealth of $433 billion. So we talking about Jeff Bezos, the Waltons from Walmart, whoever this is with Instacart, Tyson Foods, Blackstone, which is an investment company, and then 2 other investment companies. So Tyson Foods, for example, The CEO of Tyson Foods has seen his personal wealth increase over 600 million since the beginning of the pandemic. An estimated 11,000 Tyson workers have been infected with COVID. He's making billions while his workers are while he having a pandemic even within his workforce. The three owners of Walmart. Oh no, let's go to Jeff Bezos. The wealth of Amazon's Jeff Bezos has increased 70 billion since mid-March, while an estimated 20,000 Amazon workers have been infected with COVID. The three owners of Walmart, Rob, Jim, and Alice, have seen their combined personal wealth 48 billion since the beginning of the pandemic, about a 30% increase. And now they wealth is over 211 billion. And yet Walmart refuses to provide hazard pay to its workers. They can afford it. They can afford it.
Like shit.
Like and this is just the numbers for 2020. So this report is from March 2020 to November 2020, the thick of the pandemic. And they want to know why people don't fuck with billionaires. Why it's not ethical, because just even on a basic standpoint of like employment and workers' rights and shit like that, they get their billions because they're not paying people wages that they deserve.
Yeah.
They get their billions. They making billions.
Healthcare.
They making billions because while people are panicking and going to Walmart to buy a whole bunch of toilet paper, they got people working overtime thinking this, time and a half is cool, but they exposing themselves to COVID. No hazard pay. It's a bunch of people rushing Walmart trying to get toilet paper because the news is fueling this controversy. But y'all can't afford to pay these people hazard pay. Man, it's a very simple question. The reason why there's no ethical billionaires is because you have to push past. You have to ignore morality. You have to ignore ethics to even amass $1 billion. Go ahead, Toyi.
Well, and one of the things I wanted to add on to the answering of your question about like why do we hate billionaires, why do people hate billionaires, is the concept of empathetic identification, right? And I'm not gonna hold you. It's a concept that I've come across, and I don't really know who coined the phrase, but the logic behind it, and here's where it exposes, because and this is for my people who's just like, y'all always make everything about black people. It always ends up being about black people. You can find anything, 5 white billionaires, and somehow make this, an issue about black people or blackness or how it affects black people. But that's one of the questions we seek to answer on this show, right? We try to take things that seemingly seem disconnected from the lived experiences of us in our realities and make the connection, because everything is anti-black. Y'all need
all of it, the world.
You know what I'm saying? To that
welcome to the chop up.
So in this particular instance, when we look at why people hate billionaires, first of all, let's look at 250,000. And I'm gonna get to the definition of, actually, here it is. Here's the definition, or how is most easily to understand empathetic identification. What happens is white people get to live in a world, particularly wealthy white people, get to live in a world where death or the imminence of death is not always already situated as a fixture in their real lives. So what do? They go out and thrill seek. They find ways to put themselves into proximity with death, to flirt with death, to play with it, not even necessarily going into something to die, but they'll jump off a cliff, they'll go into the bottom of the ocean, they'll Elon built a spaceship and went up into the sky. They'll do all of these things that get them into proximity of the thing that they've kind of only heard about secondhand. Right. This is why they're able to philosophize and in interesting ways flirt with different things that get them close, because unlike black people, particularly, who are understood as in relationship to death through modernity, right? Through the process of chattel slavery, right? We came out different. We came out non-human. We came out socially dead, right?
They ontologized.
Yes. Yeah. Right. We have been rendered dead in our reality. And so much of our reality post-slavery has been juxtaposed to within inches of death, right? We don't have to wonder what it might look like to die. We just have to go to church, or just have to go to school, or we just have to live in our communities, or we just have to have a bad confrontation or interaction with the police, or we just have to pick a thing, right? We know you can be Corinne Gaines in your house playing a video game. You can be Breonna Taylor in your house sleeping, and have a confrontation with death, so we don't have to wonder.
Tiana Jefferson.
That was who was playing the video game. Corinne Gaines was defending her house and her family when the police tried to run up on her. I think up in Baltimore, right? But so many names and so many examples of how living puts you in proximity to death. Black people in particular don't have that relationship to these extremist types of things. But you know who does? People can afford it, and people who tend to be white. So when you got the bag and you can go and take and this is where I was going. There was a very interesting video that broke down some of the financial impact, because people was like $250,000, so much money thrown away for an excursion like this. But wow, such a big, chunk of change. And in their reality, not at all. When you look at how much $1 billion is, which the average person cannot begin to fathom, because we don't even spend that much money in a lifetime. When you get to what about $1 billion looks at, the percentage of that is 250,000 is like the equivalent of a cup of Starbucks coffee, right? Maybe with a couple of bells and whistles, maybe you ask for a little bit more.
Maybe with a scone and and get you a croissant.
Cake pop. Get you a cake pop and a croissant. You know what I'm saying? But that is about the equivalent of how much they spent. It's another afternoon snack to go underneath and underneath the ocean floor, a place that is less known than the space that is above us, to go get an endeavor in. And so that type of connection or relationship, that flirtation with death, that enticing of death, that proximity you have with the thrill of what might happen with your life in flux, is something that is not granted to poor Black people, but is largely navigated, largely desired by white affluent people.
Because you got to think about it, Toya. You got to think about it, Toya, because as you describe the empathetic identification, it's like you trying to talk to people who like grow up learning survival strategies, right from the get-go, from the jump. Like the first thing that you taught, you Black. Second thing that you taught is how the world respond to Blackness, right? And that means that how the world can respond to you in ways that could take your life. You feel me? And that's from the racial standpoint. Then from the poverty standpoint, that where a lot of Black people come from, you also have we also have a situation where, hey, it's a chance that the light bill may not be paid. It's a chance that the gas bill may not be paid. And then what people are willing to do just to survive, like. White boys, for example, love having being around the Black rappers. The rich white boys love being around the Black rappers. They love coming to the hood. Thrills, they're thrill seeking, right? Because the environment is dangerous. But these niggas is doing what they do because this is their livelihood. Like either I'm gonna be poor, hungry, and broke, or I could move, work, have some money in my pocket. You know what I'm saying? Like have some nice clothes, whatever. Just to make it through. You know what I'm saying? A life to where it's not I'm sitting down and allowing myself to, you know what I mean, to just disappear in the corner type shit.
I think about that a lot when I think about I keep seeing random videos of people going to O Block in Chicago to prove that they've made it somewhere, and it's like, nigga, this O Block is where people's futures go to die, from what I hear. It's
not even a future; it's the end.
Right? You know what I'm saying? Yeah. It's tragedy. It's internet. This is not no shade to the great people who come out of the urban core of Chicago. I won't pretend to know about all those things, and I know great people, hardworking people, capable, beautiful Black people come from there too. But in a lot of ways, it's a lot of doom and gloom and craziness there. And so when you look at that kind of cultural tourism, you know what I'm saying, that voyeurism that they end up participating in, where you go and get your chops by stopping in and leaning in and being a tourist and getting to leave those experiences, you are the problem, right? You are the person who adds to kind of the structural violence, because you are creating a structural glorification of shit that's not here to be glorified.
Right. I mean, and again, it's thrill seeking. You know what I'm saying? While niggas is looking at it like this is survival.
Disgusting.
Right? Death is, you know what I'm saying? It's something that we deal with every day.
But that too, by the way, real quick, y'all been in here talking to us. We definitely see that hood therapy been going. When the Dragon is up in here, J Universe, Taz, it's your girl Tweezy. Shout out to you for showing love for sure. But y'all was saying a lot of same names that we are, talking about Jeff Bezos, talking about Elon Musk. I think from here, Hood Therapy said Ozzy Osbourne's daughter got a $250,000 manicure. That's how much they play in our face. You know what I'm saying? That's how much it just don't really, it's not that deep to them. Right. And they're able to live life just kind of at a whim and on a whim. And oftentimes at the expense of low paid workers or individuals who can't survive in the same world that they live in.
So I think another interesting aspect of that, as we kind of transition into the last part of the conversation, is the media's obsession with this shit.
Yeah.
Because
why do we know about this?
Hour to hour every single day, every update. And then the people that knew what they was talking about, right? The people that knew what they was talking about already knew. Like no matter how many stories they talking about oxygen, that shit gone. That shit been blew up.
Yeah.
That shit been blew up. Like they already heard like 2 loud pops. You know what I'm saying? Shortly after they descended, they just couldn't find no, you know what I'm saying, no debris and no evidence of, of the implosion. But the people that knew what was going on was already like, yeah, they been gone. Like y'all talking about their oxygen is running out and they're down there, they're scared. And no, that shit happened in an instant. For those who don't know how implosions work, the inside of that sub within a matter of seconds heated up to the temperature of the surface of the sun. It heated to the temperature of the surface of the sun. They were incinerated within seconds. With the way that it, you know what I'm saying, imploded. So
can I tell you the wildest way that I heard it explained to me?
Go ahead.
And this phrase was enough for me to be like, which if for y'all listening, that was my jaw dropping with me being speechless. Got a bunch of pictures of things imploding, and basically it looks like a crumpled up can because all of the possible oxygen inside of that space is gone, which means it kind of sucks itself in and crumples in on itself. And the way that it was very eloquently put to me in some thread was that they went from biology. The people inside of that vessel went from biology to physics. Is what they did. They transitioned from one scientific phenomena to a whole completely other one. They literally went from life or the ability to understand or ascertain life to the ability to understand energy and the way that energy moves and works. And so
that's it.
When they put it like that, I was like, golly, rip. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Rest in peace.
They probably felt that when they heard that first crack, they probably heard that. And they probably freaked out for a little bit, but then within a matter of seconds, they was you know what I'm saying, they was out of there. That's how that shit worked.
Take long.
But it still didn't stop the media from like literally oxygen. Like I'm surprised they didn't have a meter at the top of every damn show showing how much oxygen they had left because that was the constant conversation. And so it's like we hear all of this shit going on, but then Toya enlightened me on some shit that I ain't know nothing about because this is all the fuck they was talking about. And again, this is a reflection, a representation of how poor people are treated. There was a migrant tragedy that took place. And how did we decide to frame it? It was a tragedy in the Mediterranean. Yeah. It was a tragedy in the Mediterranean while we're worried about what's happening at the bottom, in the Titanic. From the CNN report explains it pretty simply, with hundreds of people still missing, after our overloaded vessel capsized in the Mediterranean on June 14th. The testimonies of those who were on board paint a picture of chaos and desperation. Right groups allege the tragedy is both further evidence and a result of a new pattern in illegal pushbacks of migrant boats to other nations' waters with deadly consequences. The boat was carrying up to 750 Pakistani, Syrian, Egyptian, and Palestinian refugees and migrants. Only 104 people so far have been rescued alive, and they aren't very hopeful for too many other people to be rescued. Oddly enough, they were rescued by a super yacht. So a billionaire, I guess, helped out in that instance. But to be clear, to understand what it means when they said that it was it was an illegal pushback. What happens is when migrants show up in the waters of a particular country, they actually get what's called disembark. They get off of that boat. Then at that point they then become asylum seekers. And there are laws. It's like, hey, y'all gotta process them, right? Y'all gotta do something with that.
You gotta give them shelter. You gotta like feed them. You gotta do things
right.
that
treat them like people,
humanely, right? You have to give them humane conditions to navigate their lack of a humanitarian situation.
Right. And so what Greece has been doing actually for the last 3 years, since 2020, what Greece does is when migrants show up in their waters, they send a Coast Guard out to tow them out of their waters back into international waters, most likely Italy, because Italy seems to be the only European country that's actually like, okay, we're going to treat migrants like, you know what I'm saying, like people. Because Greece and other countries Other European countries have been on some real bullshit. Even the UK is going through a huge anti-migrant crisis. And actually a lot of the what they call it, the Great Replacement theory has to do with how people is influencing how people treat refugees in Europe. So what's happening is you got over 600 people who was looking for some type of reprieve, some type of assistance, right? Because the Pakistanis, I mean, you dealing with persecution in Pakistan. People dealing with persecution in Syria. Yeah, the media didn't forgot about the Syrian civil war, Assad gassing people and shit, but it's still fucked up over there. So people leaving Syria. Same thing for Egyptian. We know what's going on in Palestine with the Israeli occupation. Right, so you got people who are attempting to leave their country of origin because they coming from fucked up circumstances, and European countries, white countries like Greece, are literally like it's like if you put a baby in front of in somebody's house, and then you pick that baby up and be like, you know what, and then put it in front of your neighbor door.
Right.
Right. That's the best way to describe what's actually taking place. And what caused the capsize, what caused those people to perish, was the fact that they tried to tow them, even though the boat, as y'all can see here, was clearly not structurally sound. It wasn't ready for that. It couldn't be pulled like that. So when they tried to pull it to take them out of their waters, it caused the front of the boat to go down into the water, throwing people off the top, causing the tip of the boat to take on water, and it capsized. So the migrants themselves are arguing that the Greek Coast Guard is pretty much responsible for what took place. If you look at the title, if they had left us be, we wouldn't have drowned. That's a statement from somebody on the boat. So now that y'all know about this tragedy, Toya, why didn't we know about this tragedy? Why was this something that wasn't in front of us the way that it should have been?
So a communication theory can be used to explain this. There's a bunch of different reasons why, but based on my field of expertise, one of the things that we have to consider when we look at mass communication, particularly through news media, is the concept of the agenda setting theory. And what the agenda setting theory explains basically is that media has the ability to tell us what to think about, not what to think, right? It has the ability to tell us what to think about, although it does not tell us what to think. So there's nothing, because we live in a very liberal news media, anything can be news. You have a couple standards you have to meet to have journalistic integrity, and then you are good to go to tell people what you have learned and what you think they need to know. Anybody can give the news, and this is why we have Fox versus CNN versus MSNBC versus where your favorite place where you get the news is that everybody can take information and put their spin on it. What the agenda setting theory explains is that mass news media, the main places where people get their news, have the power not to tell you what to think about. They'll leave it to your respective favorite place for news to do that, but they will tell you what to think. So they are the ones who get to control what starts the news hour, what ends up at the top or at the front page, what gets multiple pages of talking through in the newspaper, what gets certain placement within the algorithm, which stories go through the top of your news feed, which ones you'll see the most of. There is always at play the mass media's ability, based on relationships that they have with certain other news outlets or with other political parties or other particular social movements, the options that they have to downplay or to disregard certain types of stories that they don't want to be on their news, or they don't want certain viewership for, right? They always get to negotiate that. So why did we know more about the 5 billionaires who made a decision under their own volition to go on a submarine and potentially lose their life, and they read the same waiver on 3 pages that said, the first page that said death 3 times, and they still signed it? Were we so infatuated with that? Because the agenda setting theory says the news cycles, the news companies decided that's what we needed to hear about more, and we didn't need to hear about. We didn't need to be entranced and engulfed with these conversations about what's happening off the coast of or within the Mediterranean Sea. Right? Those are strategic decisions that leave people like yourself being like, I don't know. Another great example of this was me talking to my sister last week about the wildfires happening up in New York that are coming in from Canada and affected DC, New York, and Jersey. we like the wildfires. She's like, yeah, I watch the news, read the news, whatever, but it just never got to me. Instead, my last week's news was all about this. That is because the media that she takes in and the media that we have, for example, in the Midwest, made the decision to be less invested maybe in the conversations about what's happening with those wildfires, and so deprioritized it and prioritized something else. So there is, at least from a communication standpoint, a mass media standpoint, a logical explanation for why we end up missing a lot of important things that happens around us. The powers that be have decided we don't need to know about that shit. Instead, they want us talking about or thinking about this.
And what's crazy is that, you know, we live in that age of more independent media. Right, and this is something that I harp on, being on YouTube and shit, is that we live in this age of independent media. Anybody can start a podcast, anybody can start a YouTube channel and blow up, right, and have millions of followers talking about whatever. The fucking problem is that niggas do the same shit. They just bring the same media behaviors from mainstream media, from MSNBC, CNN, etc., into these it pretty much onto social media. Now it's like, okay, yeah, you're not being paid by MSNBC to kind of keep pushing this same agenda and push this same narrative. Now it's just there is a I guess a social capital, right, on social media that actually drives the desire to be like, I want to have the same conversation that everybody else is having. Like, and where I find that to be the most problematic is like our platform, for example. My platform is a political plug, and as a chop up is like solely leftist, right? Like we push leftist shit. You feel me? And the platforms that I watch is even like these. I'll say these left platforms are just constantly Donald Trump and conservatives, Donald Trump and conservatives, Donald Trump and conservatives. There is like, it's difficult to find any conversation about any like leftist politics outside of beefing with conservatives and tearing down Donald Trump. Now, mind you, like it's a lot of platforms I watch consistently. Midas Touch, Fair and Balanced. It's a few different leftists. David Pakman. These are all like really good platforms to get like that are informative. But the constant conversation has to do with consistently talking about conservatives and Trump. And as a black person, I don't feel like those are productive politics. Those are not productive conversations for black people, right? Like we need to be talking about more things like and again, I harp on this all the time because education is so important. School board elections. You feel me? We need to be harping more on like the importance of local politics and like the direct access, the direct impact that people deal with. Like we care about crime and punishment. If we care about crime and punishment, we should care about our district attorney. What judges are we voting for, right? What prosecutors are being elected? What prosecutors do we need to get out? You feel me? Like all of these local things that because
the House and the Senate are a governing body. Like, do you know who you're gonna send up to the motherfuckers? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like they are made up of many different people. Which ones are you behind? Which ones do you support that you want to send from your district or from your state to go and represent those particular houses or bodies?
And I would honestly say that it's like our conversation is so much more nuanced. I mean, in terms of like black people, when we need like political information, it's more nuanced, it's more specific. And but the agenda, the narrative right now for liberal politics is, oh man, they finally got Trump. It's not gonna make a difference, people. Like his impact on politics is what it is already. He's not gonna get reelected, right? Just from the standpoint of like just voting math. He ain't did the right shit to get reelected since he lost last time, right? So just from that math alone, these are things we don't have to worry about. And what happens is, as we complain about people that's always like, well, they just give us the same candidates. Yeah, because in between elections, y'all talking about the same people, and ain't nobody providing no pushback. And it's like, if we don't, and black people feel so detached from these political conversations because it's like, if we don't see ourselves in the agenda, we detach ourselves from the agenda instead of creating a new one. So we detach ourselves from political conversations instead of creating new political conversations, right? And that's where I feel like that agenda setting shit, it ends up hurting us in the long run because it creates levels of ignorance, and that's why when we say ignorance, we ain't always talking about like a neg or like trying to tear somebody down, but like ignorance is fed to us, bullshit is fed to us from the mediums that we trust and we look to give us a particular to give us information. You feel me? And so it's one of them things where I consider myself to some degree a contrarian, right? But I feel like
a contrarian, one of the most antagonistic people I know. Go ahead.
But I feel like it's necessary, and more people should have at least some degree of that antagonism. You know what I mean? And to the point where we look at these agendas where we want to antagonize these agendas as opposed to removing ourselves, ceding the media spaces and these political spaces to our political enemies. It's not productive at all. And so with that, anything else you want to add to it? You start to close
Not
up?
really. I think we're constantly staying tuned to the things that are happening around us that are shaping our conversations. But I think my biggest thing is just to always wonder, is this anti-Black somehow? How are Black people implicated in this thing that we're maybe not seeing, maybe not understanding? Because there's always going to be an answer to that question. I don't think there's a race card to be played, but there are always going to be interesting layers and levels to every kind of situation that at the very least explains the trade-off, right? If not directly connected to, explains why we are not talking about brown people, for example, who are coming from the Middle Eastern and Northern African region of this world, of Northern Africa, if you will, on this planet, and how those and why those stories and those conversations are on the backdrop or on the back burner. You just have to ask yourself, why are we so infatuated with this? Why do we care as much about this? Why the hell do I know as much about this thing that I do? Because I'm a little sponge. I like to suck up stuff, and once we start getting, and that's why I think Twitter is so interesting, because it is so many different perspectives just in the palm of my hand about one thing that I get to be like, like I go through a litany of emotions, just kind of taking in everything. But I have oceanographers and scientists and the average person and niggas like me and queer folk and women and all types of people. Like there were no women on that boat. There are things that we should be concerned. But again, allow your mind to get out of what you're seeing at face value. Allow your mind to think a little bit deeper and a more broader, more breadth and more depth about the topics of the hour, I think is the biggest message that I have for you. I always, lean into a diverse litany of perspectives, voices, and sources of information so that you can not only know what you're supposed to be talking about, air quote, supposed to be talking about, but also what you're not supposed to be talking about and why. Right?
Like this shit. We shouldn't have been talking about this submarine shit. We shouldn't have been talking about this submarine shit.
Instead of we should have been talking about the ways that, if we look at the way, like I said, France, Canada, and the United States sprung into action, there should be no reason for any migrants to be lost mid-sea, because of the collaborative capabilities of all these nations and all the technology we have
that they displayed.
Why do we have people dying trying to get to safety? Why do we have people dying in waters when they're looking for what is the word when you are asylum? Is the word that escapes me. Right. And that'll start getting us to bigger questions about citizenship, about borders, about territories. All of a sudden, the water is so important. But what about these boundaries and these borders we have on land? Colonization is a hell of a drug, right? But lot to be talked about, lot to be exposed. So ask yourself some deeper questions as we participate collectively and socially in these big conversations about these big events.
Yo, and so, and check this out, y'all. Like, because this shit was dumb, right? The whole, like, the obsession, the media focus, the fact that even, TikTok was, like, that was, like, some of the top trending shit. That was fucking ridiculous. That was fucking ridiculous. Like, so what needs to happen is we need y'all, the people who support the Chop Up, Chop Nation, we need y'all like, sharing, and subscribing so more relevant, more necessary conversations can happen, right? Because there's a lot of people talking about dope shit, but unfortunately, the algorithm don't encourage like innovative conversation. The algorithm don't necessarily encourage conversations that everybody ain't talking about. So it's always about the support. So with y'all support, we can keep pushing this knowledge, this good information, and actually giving niggas news they could use instead of running behind like whatever the fuck CNN is talking about, because like the shit that even like what's happening to CNN is a whole nother story. Also, quick correction. Andrea Jones pointed out when I made the statement that when I was like Italy treating people like treating migrants like humans, she kind of re-quoted that in the chat to kind of be like, and I agree with that. I guess I want to change that characterization. They're at least following the policy, right? The international policy that's supposed to be that is supposed to help with asylum and help refugees. So treating, and because Italy is still Italy, right? We still talking about this very similar attitudes that we see in Greece when it comes to migrants. But they're at least taking in refugees. They're not doing the shit that Greece is doing. So I may have gave Italy too much credit in that instance, but they are at least processing asylum more than countries like Greece has in the last few years. So with that being said, yeah, J Universe said the algorithm does not support education or elevation. And the crazy thing about it, that's all we about, education and elevation. So with that being said, we will see y'all.
Hey, real quick, if y'all didn't speak while we was in here, if y'all didn't say nothing in the comments, it's all good. Make sure y'all say bye on the way out. We just like to know who's in the comments talking. We seen Donnell. I just seen Donnell pop up out of nowhere, bro. Family, did I didn't even know you was in here, but it's always a blessing. Y'all catch us on any day of the week, and I love it. So, shoot, we on the way out. Didn't mean to cut plug off. I just want to make sure we hear from everybody. So, if y'all didn't say nothing in the conversation, catch us on the way out. And shoot, plug, what was you about to say? What you about to tell these people?
Bye. I'm about to tell these people bye.
See y'all later.
Hey, no, yeah, cause like what this our episode for the week. Unless we like in a good mood and we like, all right, we're gonna live Thursday too. We'll see.
Yeah. We'll see.
But I'm saying we will see y'all next time. This is the Chop Up. Thank y'all for joining us. Peace.
Peace.